read for the first time, among them the Land Value Index Laws, Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2018, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill number 4, that is a National Assembly Bill of 2018. The Land Value Index Laws Amendment Bill proposes to amend the Land Act, the Land Registration Act, and the Prevention, Protection, and Assistance to Internally Displaced Persons and Affected Communities Acts in order to provide for the assessment of land value index in respect of compulsory acquisition of land. The land value index will standardize and harmonize the value of land across the country for the primary purpose of determining land rent, land rates, stamp duty on conveyance of land, and compensation of expropriated land. The bill seeks to make land rates, rent, stamp duty, and compensation predictable, rational, and not prone to subjective values. The bill also seeks to regulate the long and protracted process of compulsory acquisition and harmonize and standardize the compensation thereof. Huge variations in the amount paid by way of compensation has led to huge iniquities to those whose land was compulsorily acquired. The law seeks to equalize those particular payments. If you're just joining us, the members of parliament are getting ready for the day's business, and this afternoon there is a lot that the members will be looking to exhaust. Among them, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2018. Now, this particular bill seeks to amend the Constitution to ensure that the membership of the National Assembly and the Senate conforms to the two-thirds gender principle provided for in Article 81B of the Constitution. The bill seeks to give effect to the two-thirds gender principle through the creation of special seats that will ensure that the gender principle is realized in Parliament over a period of 20 years for the next general election or from the next general election. It is hoped that by that time, both genders will have been given a level playing field and will be able to compete on equal plane. The bill therefore proposes to amend Article 90, Article 97, and Article 98 of the Constitution. Clause 2 of the bill proposes to amend Article 90 of the Constitution to reflect the amendments proposed to Article 97 and 98 and to ensure that empowerment through nomination is spread to as many people as possible by precluding persons elected to any House of Parliament or county assemblies by way of nomination from enjoying such a nomination for more than 2 terms. There will be a resumption of debate which was interrupted on Thursday, the 22nd February 2018, and that particular debate was on the Kenya Roads Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017. That particular bill is going through its second reading, and the bill seeks to give effect to the 4th schedule of the Constitution in relation to the road subsector. It is proposed to review, consolidate, and rationalize the legal and institutional framework for management of the road network and road subsector in a more efficient and effective manner. And right now, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Justin Muturi, has stepped into the chambers. This broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. It is a broadcast available on Bunge TV as well as KBC Channel 1. You can also stream it on YouTube. My name is Edward Kabasa. Have yourself a very wonderful afternoon.
Pleased to quote the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Do you have the numbers? Okay, proceed.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
The member for Endebess could take a seat. You can sit next to the Honorable Mele. He is not a harmful person. Honourable members, I wish to introduce to you a delegation of members of parliament from the Parliament of Uganda, seated in the Speaker's row. Are they here? They are late to come in. Oh gosh. Honourable members, I'm told they are still making their way. Anyway, we shall introduce them and recognize them when they arrive. Next one. When we get to petitions. Indeed, honourable members, since I'm aware that there is great anxiety that has been created out there, I shall be making yet another communication to the House when we get to order number 7.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Well, the communication I'll be making relates to that particular order.
Order number 5, papers.
Leader of the majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27th, 2018. The report of the Auditor General and financial statements of the national government for the financial year 2015-2016. 2, the insolvency (amendment) regulations 2018 and the explanatory memorandum pursuant to section 730 of the Insolvency Act of 2015 to be referred to the Committee on Delegated Legislation. 3, the Companies General Amendment Regulations 2018 and the explanatory memorandum pursuant to section 1022 of the Companies Act of 2015 to be referred to the Committee on Delegated Legislation. 4, the Traffic Amendment number 3 Rules 2017 and the explanatory memorandum pursuant to section 119 of the Act, of the Traffic Act, to be referred to the Committee on Delegated Legislation. And finally, Mr. Speaker, 5, the East Africa Protocol on Information, Communication and Technology, ICT, pending ratification by the Kenya National Assembly, to be referred to the Committee on Regional Integration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the first report obviously goes to the committee chaired by the member for Uganda. And I think it's fair to note that this is a report of the Auditor General relating to the national government for the financial year 2015-2016. So the Honorable Opio and I, there's a lot that is expected because counties will be looking up to you to fast track the consideration of those reports because of the issue of division of revenue bill. The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 27 February 2018. The report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock on the vetting of nominee for the appointment to the position of Principal Secretary, Department Agriculture, Research, Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation. Thank you.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Honorable Limo, or the Vice Chair, or the Honorable Limo is there.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27, 2018. Report of the Departmental Committee of Finance and National Planning on the approval of the appointment of the Principal Secretaries, State Department for Planning, the National Treasury and Planning, and the State Department for Devolution, Ministry of Devolution and ASAL, respectively.
Thank you. Paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27, 2018. Report of the Departmental Committee on Health on the vetting of the nominee for the appointment to the position of Principal Secretary for State Department of Health. Thank you, Speaker, sir.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Honorable Kosing.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27th, 2018. The report of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on the approval for the appointment for Principal Secretary for State Department for Housing and Urban Development. I thank you, sir.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Honorable Koinange.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27, 2018. Report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the approval for appointment of Principal Secretary for State Department for Immigration, Border Control, and Registration of Persons. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Education and Research. Honorable Meli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27, 2018. Report of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the approval for the appointment of Principal Secretary for the State Department for Vocational and Technical Training. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Francis Chachuganya, on behalf of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Honorable Ashiali.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay
the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27th, 2018, a report of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the approval for appointment of Principal Secretary for State Department for Water and Sanitation. On behalf of the Chairman, Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairperson, Budget and Appropriations Committee, Honorable Ichongo.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 27, 2018. Report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the Budget Policy Statement and the Debt Management Strategy for the financial year 2018-2019 and the medium term. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
And finally, the Chairperson, Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, Honorable Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 27th, February 2018. The report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the approval for the appointment of members of the Judicial Service Commission. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
The Honorable Eden Haji, Chair of Agriculture Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock on the vetting of nominee for appointment as Principal Secretary laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 155(3)(b) of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Professor Hamadi Idi Boga as the Principal Secretary, State Department, Agriculture Research. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairperson, Finance, Honorable Limo.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on the vetting of nominees for appointment as Principal Secretaries laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 1553(b) of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Dr. Julius Muya and Mr. Nelson Marwa as Principal Secretary, State Department for Planning, the National Treasury and Planning, and State Department for Devolution, Ministry of Devolution and ASAL, respectively. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kato Metito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have two motions. First of all, I beg to give notice to the following motion: that this House adopt the report of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the vetting of nominees for appointment as Principal Secretary laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provision of Article 155, subclause 3B of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Ambassador Macharia Kamau as Principal Secretary, State Department for Foreign Affairs. Then, Mr. Speaker, allow me to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopt the report of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the vetting of nominees for appointment as ambassadors and high commissioners laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27th, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 132, subclause 2E of the Constitution and Standing Order 216, subclause 5F, approves the appointment of the following persons: 1, Professor Judy Wahungu, Ambassador to France; 2, Dr. Cleopa Mailu, Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Geneva; 3, Honorable Dan Kazungu, High Commissioner to the United Republic of Tanzania; 4, Mrs. Phyllis Candier, Ambassador to Belgium, Luxembourg, and the European Union. 5, Mr. Willibert Kipkoril, High Commissioner to India. 6, Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, Permanent Representative to UNESCO. 7, Dr. Hassan Wario Arero, Ambassador to Austria. And 8, Mr. Lawrence Ndoyela Nayapa, Ambassador to Netherlands. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Ali Wario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that the House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on the vetting of nominee for appointment as Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provision of Article 155(3)(b) of the Constitution.
I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Health on the vetting of a nominee for appointment as Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 155(3)(b) of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Mr. Peter Kiplagat Tum as the Principal Secretary, State Department for Health. Thank you, Speaker, sir.
Honorable Gosing.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works, and Housing on the vetting of nominee for appointment as Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27th, 2018, and pursuant to provisions of Article 155, Sub-Article 3B of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Mr. Charles Hinka Maura as Principal Secretary, State Department of Housing and Urban Development. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Paul Koinange.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the vetting of persons for appointment as Principal Secretaries, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 153(3)(b) of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Major General Retired Dr. Gordon Odemo Kihalangwa as the Principal Secretary, State Department, Immigration, Border Control, and Registration of Persons. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Mele.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the vetting of the nominee for the appointment as Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 155, Clause 3B of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Dr. Kevi Desai as Principal Secretary, State Department for Vocational and Technical Training, Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Washiali.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the vetting of nominee for appointment as Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 155, Sub-Article 3B of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Mr. Joseph Wairagu Irungu as Principal Secretary, State Department for Water and Sanitation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the Budget Policy Statement and the Debt Management Strategy for the financial year 2018-2019 and the medium term, laid on the table of this House today, Tuesday, 27th February 2018. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Finally, Honorable Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that the House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the vetting of nominees of appointment as members of the Judicial Service Commission, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, February 27, 2018, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 172, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, approves the appointment of Mr. Patrick Kishoi, Professor Olive Mukenda, and Mr. Felix Koskei as members of the Judicial Service Commission. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Vita could take a seat. Honourable members, I indicated earlier that we have guests, and I wish to introduce to you the delegation of members of Parliament from the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, seated in the Speaker's row. The delegation comprises of the following: 1, the Honorable Patrick Oshabe Nzamba, leader of delegation. The Honorable Nora Nyenduoha Bigiriwa, member. The Honorable Anne Abaju Adeke, member. The Honorable Herbert Ariko, member. The Honorable Maurice Henry Kibaya, member. Mr. John Tamale, Legal Counsel, and Mr. Max Kamakech, Clerk Assistant Secretary to the delegation. Honourable members, the delegation is in the country on a stand visit of our Parliament to interact with our committees and various state agencies to discuss legislative mechanisms for ensuring that locals benefit in procurement of goods and services in the public sector. On my own behalf and that of the House, I wish to welcome them to the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya and wish them fruitful engagement during their stay in the country. I thank you. Honourable members, allow me also to recognize seated in the Speaker's gallery members of the County Assembly of Nyandarua, members of staff, and students from Mwakitawa Girls Secondary School, Voi constituency, Taita Taveta County. And students and pupils in the public gallery from Mugui Secondary School, Tharaka constituency, Tharaka Nithi County. And Mwiki Primary School, Roiro constituency, Kiambu County. They are all welcome to observe the proceedings in the National Assembly. Honourable members, I did indicate that owing to some interest that has been generated and necessary in the country, I have this communication to make. Maybe the members who are coming in, you could come in and take your seat because this will take some time. Very quickly, if you can take your seats. Those who are coming in, please quickly take seats. This communication will take some time. Honourable members, this communication relates to a petition submitted to my office for the removal from the office of Commissioners of the Judicial Service Commission. Honourable members, I wish to inform the House that my office is in receipt of a petition from one Adrian Kamodho Njenga, seeking the removal of Honorable Justice David Maraga, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, Honorable Justice Mohammed Warsame, Honorable Justice Agri Muchelule, Professor Tom Ojienda, Honorable Emily Omide, and Honorable Marcin Deshe as members of the Judicial Service Commission, JSC, pursuant to Article 251 of the Constitution of Governance, and in 27, equality and freedom from discrimination. At number 35, Article 35, access to information. Article 73, responsibilities of leadership. Article 168, removal from office. Article 172, functions of the Judicial Service Commission. And Article 232, values and principles of public service of the Constitution. Number 2, discrimination and victimization in the treatment of complaints and disciplinary proceedings against judicial officers. And 3, failure to recommend persons for appointment as judges of the Court of Appeal. Honourable members, the petitioner calls upon the National Assembly to exercise its mandate under Articles 94, 95, and 251 of the Constitution to ensure that the Judicial Service Commission does not degenerate into further mediocrity on account of unconstitutional conduct by its members by holding the 7 commissioners accountable for derogation from binding constitutional standards. He prays that the House, 1, finds the 7 commissioners jointly and severally, A, to have contravened the Constitution and the law, B, to have committed acts of gross misconduct in the performance of functions or otherwise, C, incompetence. 2, the House finds that the petition discloses overwhelming grounds for removal of the 7 commissioners as enunciated at Article 251, Clause 1 of the Constitution, and 3, the House be pleased to send the petition to His Excellency the President for the appointment of a tribunal to investigate the matter expeditiously, report on the facts, and make a binding recommendation to the President. Honourable members, as you are aware, petitions to this House are governed by the provisions of Article 119 of the Constitution, where any member of the public can petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including the enactment, amendment, or repeal of legislation. Further, honourable members, this House has enacted the Petitions to Parliament (Procedures Act of 2012), which outlines the modalities of petitioning the House. The procedure set out in the Act is mirrored in the standing orders of this House at Standing Order number 223 for ordinary petitions and Standing Order number 230 for petitions seeking the removal of a member of a constitutional commission or holder of an independent office. Honourable members, before I venture into the general admissibility of the petition in terms of the standing orders, I shall first deal with a material issue which the petition raises by seeking the removal of the Chief Justice as a Commissioner of the Judicial Service Commission. As members are aware, once a person is appointed as Chief Justice under Article 166 of the Constitution, that person is automatically designated as the President of the Supreme Court and Chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission under Articles 163, Clause 1, Paragraph A, and 171, Clause 2, Paragraph A, respectively. With this in mind, a clear reading of the Constitution reveals that the office of the Chief Justice and that of the Chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission are joined at the hip and may only be held by one person. Therefore, a person desirous of removing the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission from office must necessarily seek for his or her removal as the Chief Justice. In this regard, a person must petition the JSC for the removal of the Chief Justice via the express procedures provided under Article 168 of the Constitution. Indeed, by analogy, Article 127(2), paragraph A of the Constitution automatically designates the person elected as the Speaker of the National Assembly to be the chairperson of the Parliamentary Service Commission. Therefore, a person seeking the removal of the chairperson of the Parliamentary Service Commission from office must necessarily seek for the removal from office of the Speaker under Article 106, Clause 2, Paragraph C of the Constitution. Honourable members, the inclusion of the Chief Justice as a subject of the petition by the said Adrian Kamodo Jenga, therefore, is in itself misplaced and fatal to the petition. The petitioner, by purporting to move the National Assembly to consider the removal of the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission by using Article 251 of the Constitution, is a long shot, pedestrian, and engaging in a fishing expedition. As a result, the House will not be in a position to address itself to the rest of the contents of the petition in light of that material irregularity alone. It therefore follows that this petition falls on its own sword. I shall, however, proceed to address the rest of the contents of the petition that similarly raises issues of concern in order to restore the procedural, to restate the procedural requirements governing petitions for the removal of constitutional office holders and independent offices. Honourable members, the petition as filed seeks the removal of 7 members of the Judicial Service Commission jointly and severally on 3 of the 6 grounds specified under Article 251, Clause 1 of the Constitution, this being, and I quote, number 1, serious violation of the Constitution or any other law, including a contravention of Chapter 6, 2, gross misconduct, whether in the performance of the members or office holders' functions or otherwise, and 3, incompetence. The petitioner outlines several particulars in support of the grounds without particularity as to which ground they support and which specific member of the JSC they relate to. I've previously guided this House on this issue in a communication dated 22nd of October 2015 on the processing of special motions under Articles 145, 150, Clause 2, 152, Clause 6, and 251 of the Constitution. In that communication, I ruled that the grounds outlined for the removal of a constitutional office holder should specifically relate to the individual office holder with sufficient particularity and annexures or sworn testimonies in support. The House, at the close of the 11th Parliament, amended the standing orders to account with the Constitution, with that communication by including this requirement for particularity at Standing Order number 230, which provides as follows, and I quote for avoidance of doubt, in addition to complying with the requirements of paragraphs A, B, C, D, B, Roman 1, 2, and 3, and of Standing Order number 223 from the form of a petition, the House, for removal of a member of a commission or holder of an independent office under Article 251 of the Constitution shall, Roman 1, indicate the grounds under Article 251(1) of the Constitution which member of the commission or holder of an independent office is in breach of. 2, where the grounds in subparagraph 1 above relate to violation of the Constitution or any other law, state with a degree of precision the provisions of the Constitution or any other written law that are being alleged to have been violated. 3, indicate the nexus between the member or holder of the independent office concerned and the alleged grounds on which removal is sought. And finally, disciplinary proceedings commenced against judges or other judicial officers are in the nature of administrative actions governed by Article 47 of the Constitution on fair administrative action and the provisions of the Fair Administrative Action Act of 2015. You may agree with me that this House is not an appellate forum for ventilating appeals arising out of administrative proceedings of the Judicial Service Commission. I wish to caution the members of the public that Parliament is not a place to settle constitutional grievances without first adhering to the very same Constitution that they seek to rely on, especially matters administrative. Consequently, a judge or complainant aggrieved by an administrative action taken or not taken by the Judicial Service Commission as an adequate remedy in judicial review before the courts. Honourable members, as a matter of procedure, the Petition to Parliament Procedure Act 2012 obliges the Clerk of the National Assembly to verify the admissibility of a petition to the House and advise the Speaker on whether the petition should be tabled in the House or not. Where a petition is found to be inadmissible, the Clerk responds to the petitioner, drawing his or her attention to the nature of its inadmissibility. I've taken this unprecedented step of issuing this communication to the House on this petition before its tabling in light of the subject which it relates to, being a constitutional commission which deals with matters of one arm of government and the amount of public interest that this petition has generated. I accordingly direct, 1, that the petition by the said Indian Kamodo Jenga be and is hereby inadmissible as it seeks the removal from office of the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission in a manner unknown and or not contemplated by the Constitution, a prayer that is fatal to the entire petition. 2, that the petition by the said Indian Kamodo Jenga be and is hereby inadmissible as, in addition, A, it does not state with a degree of precision the provisions of the Constitution or any other written law that each member of the JSC is alleged to have violated. B, it does not indicate the nexus between the individual commissioners and the alleged grounds for which their removal is sought, apart from corporate decisions made in the exercise of their constitutional functions as the Judicial Service Commission. C, the particulars indicated in support of the grounds relate to administrative actions taken or failed to be taken by the Judicial Service Commission, which are amenable to judicial review. And finally, that the clerk do prepare and convey an appropriate response to the petitioner, informing him that his petition has failed miserably.
But on personal lines, we are good friends, and I think I want to congratulate him for that. It's not easy to go through a petition. And all the other members, Mr. Speaker, who are still facing their petitions and those who have won, I congratulate those who have won. Those who are still facing petitions, we pray for you. Mr. Speaker, I really didn't want to talk on this matter much after you have made the ruling, which I think is really well-informed, grounded in law, and really there's very little to add. But Mr. Speaker, there's just one issue that I wanted to address you on, which probably in future may become an issue, Mr. Speaker. And I'm raising this well aware that the Speaker has the capacity to address this matter. Mr. Speaker, our Constitution separates the powers of the three arms of government, the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. And Mr. Speaker, I do know that Parliament is given the mandate to initiate removal from office of state officers, including commissioners. But Mr. Speaker, I am not so sure whether the drafters of the Constitution contemplated a situation where an individual would want to remove the entire commission at a go by citing individual members like Mr. Njenga attempted to do. Mr. Speaker, that raises a fundamental question of how would this affect the independence of the judiciary if we were, as a House, going to address ourselves to removal from office of the entire commission in the name of removing individual commissioners. Mr. Speaker, as I heard about this petition, I have been wondering how this Parliament would have transacted, if at all this petition was found to be admissible. It was worrying me how the boundary between Parliament exercising its powers under Article 251 of the Constitution of removal of commissioners vis-a-vis protecting the independence of the judiciary, especially where the petitioner questions the performance of those commissioners in their duty of executing or trying to protect the independence of the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, probably it is not something that you'd address yourself to now, but I just wanted to raise it so that in future it does not appear like Parliament is trying to interfere with the performance of the Judicial Service Commission as an entity in the name or in pursuit of individual commissioners being investigated, or a process that would lead to the removal from office. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the names which were cited, all the commissioners except those vacant positions, meaning the petitioner had a problem with the commission. So it is like the petitioner wanted us to disband the Judicial Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, that is what I'm raising. I think the leader of majority was not alert. I am just trying to bring it to the chair that probably in future it may pose some serious questions of separation of power between Parliament and the judiciary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Honorable Bandi, you know, you have also heard some Kenyans saying that they want to go to court to have Parliament dissolved. I wonder whether it is any different. So this independence, it's something that really, I believe all arms of government must deal with, with a lot of circumspection, so that no one particular arm seems to be derailing the others from performing their.
Members of Parliament have the opportunity to impeach cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, the president, the deputy. But Mr. Speaker, the law has set a certain benchmark and a threshold. And we don't want the types of arm drain. And I don't think the Speaker, where that gentleman is a lawyer, the LSK, those people who are lawyers in this House, you need to confirm. Because the last time I saw that gentleman in Parliament, he was following the bill on ICT. So he was more of a computer. He was a chair of an association of ICT. So when he was being called a lawyer, I don't know. But Mr. Speaker, I think even the basic, and I remember Honorable Bandi raising the other day, or Honorable Wamalwa, when a petition comes, before the petition comes to even the floor for you to communicate, that petition must go thorough scrutiny. There are too many, Mr. Speaker, busybodies. This House must deal with the matter and use resources and time that can have a very good end product. Mr. Speaker, we have no interest in the removal of the Chief Justice. We have no interest in the removal of any commission. Of course, if they commit serious violation of the Constitution, then this House will deal with it. But Mr. Speaker, I'm so happy, and I'm sure the likes of my friend, the owner of this petition, and many, many others. These are petitions that can go to the bunga la wananchi. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, This is the right, that. And Mr. Speaker, this one has nothing to do with the famous quote of revisit. It has nothing to do. When we intend to revisit, we'll revisit it with serious petition. You know, researched on anybody, Mr. Speaker, on anybody. I mean, that's why we are members of parliament. And any member of the public who has a serious issue on any holder of a constitutional office, you need to do a research, Mr. Speaker. That's why, Mr. Speaker, you have seen a lot of the busybodies who have taken us to court, a lot of the busybodies, they are now suffering with a hefty bill of 6 million, 5 million, 6. Of course, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to follow my 6 million. I will not follow. And I have even instructed my lead counsel, senior counsel, Amin Nasir, IBC can follow. But us, we don't want to follow because, you know, we believe in community harmony. We don't want somebody who has spent money. But Mr. Speaker, I think the court is sending a message that busybodies who file petitions, you will not go home free. You will go home with a huge bill. Even my good friend, Honorable Jakoyo, has a bill of 3 million. But I'm looking for him. I want to help him. Honorable Jakoyo has 3 million. Honorable Gumbo, my former colleague, has another 3 million. So this week will be very bad for me because we have to do fundraisings. And these are my good friends, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the way the judiciary is dealing with the busybodies, this House, under your leadership, must deal with anybody who bring any petition that has no legs to stand. So this House respects the office of the Chief Justice. We respect the men and women who are at the Commission of Judicial Service Commission. We respect them and the whole judiciary. The way they respect the executive, the way we respect the legislature, the way, so the three arms of government, Mr. Speaker, must respect each other. And I'm sure it is now you as the custodian, as the gatekeeper, to make sure that the flow of this House and this Parliament, Mr. Speaker, is not used by people who are malicious. If you want to deal with the Chief Justice, don't use Parliament. You can use other routes. Some of us, Mr. Speaker, we want to respect and uphold the rule of law and the Constitution. We will not allow any person who wants to use the legislature to deal with his personal issues. We have no interest. So, Honorable Chief Justice, don't look at the media, look at what the Speaker has communicated this afternoon. But the day will come when you violate the Constitution, just like many, many other people, Mr. Speaker. The two chairs of EACC were removed by Parliament. And the Legal Affairs Committee brought a very robust report. Many other people were removed by Parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you. We are waiting for this communication, and I am sure the following days to come of the 12th Parliament, anybody who wishes to bring a petition, you need to burn the midnight oil, have the relevant evidence and affidavits, so that Parliament can give you an opportunity to discuss the conduct of any state or public or independent commission officer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I can say the chair of just the Legal Affairs want to say something, but I just wanted to imagine that, of course, even as we use these rules about admissibility, and I can see my good friend, the Honorable John Olagwa-Luoch and the Honorable Tieni Amolo would want to weigh into this. But I hope that even the judiciary would also really, exercise some little bit of restraint in the way they admit, matters before them. Because once this House or even the other House or both houses pass legislation, and if you are not quarreling about the procedure that has been followed, if you are just quarreling about some provisions in the law, and you go and the judiciary will admit a suit where the Speaker is the respondent, to do what? Even if the Speaker had to go to appear there, to go and say that law was passed in a particular way. And I saw the Honorable Tieni Amolo smiling when it was passing, because there's nothing else I can say. I cannot say anything. It's not my business to comment about if it has passed. If you have issues with the law, go and challenge the particular provision clauses in the bill, in the law. Not wasting, spending taxpayers. Of course, they go under the guise of public interest litigation, so they don't incur any costs. But we have to send legal representation in matters that really we shouldn't be spending unnecessary resources on. Honorable Cheptum, I can see you are burning to say something. Be brief so that I can see the member for community is also.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I will be very brief. I want to start, Mr. Speaker, by thanking you for this very, very well thought communication. Mr. Speaker, from yesterday when this report of a petition coming before the House appeared in the news, Mr. Speaker, the feeling across the country, and from what I understood, was that the popular issue of revisiting the judiciary, Mr. Speaker, is able to address all your issues. But let us also comply with the rules, with the Constitution, with the requirements. If you have any challenge against any person to be appointed, please ensure your complaint is in a form of an affidavit on oath, so that, Mr. Speaker, we are able to take those challenges seriously. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that this is very important, that this House shall continue to be a House which is going to uphold justice. And, Mr. Speaker, all public servants in this country should feel free that, Mr. Speaker, as long as they obey the law, the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, this House, under your leadership, Mr. Speaker, shall always stand with them if they follow the law. And the following, of course, the opposite will be true if they don't, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your very, very well thought communication, and I believe Kenyans are happy with your communication. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, if we start using the rule of, now it looks like then the member for Suna East, being your boss, should have the first shot. And be brief, Honorable Junet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, your ruling today is a precedent setting, Mr. Speaker, by all standards, Mr. Speaker. And it's going to be a ruling that is going to help this country for many years to come. Mr. Speaker, because petitions are provided for in the Constitution, Kenyans think that anybody can bring any kind of petition without looking into it properly, whether it has any basis or not. But having said, Mr. Speaker, that as much as you have ruled that this is not the right petition for the JSC, Mr. Speaker, the removal of the commission, Mr. Speaker, but on the other hand, Mr. Speaker, judiciary must come out and become accountable to Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, because they run this country through Kenyan taxpayers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are three arms of government: the executive, the judiciary, and legislature, Mr. Speaker. This legislature is held accountable, Mr. Speaker, by the Kenyan people through an election every 5 years, Mr. Speaker. If I don't do my work as a member of parliament, I will be removed, Mr. Speaker, by the Kenyan people in the next coming election. And same way, Mr. Speaker, the executive, they are accountable to this parliament, Mr. Speaker, and we audit them, we look at audit reports, and there's even a way of removing a cabinet secretary provided in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, if you have a complaint, for example, against a judge, the best thing you can do is to write your complaint to the JSC, Mr. Speaker. The same JSC composition is full of judges, Mr. Speaker. A judge representing the appeal court, a judge representing the high court, a judge representing the Supreme Court, the president is the Chief Justice, Mr. Speaker. What kind of accountability is that, Mr. Speaker? Even if it is provided by the law and the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. So my point is, Mr. Speaker, as legislative arm of government, Mr. Speaker, we must come up with a better methodology and mechanism to make sure that the judiciary, which is an important arm of government, is held accountable on behalf of the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even if you look at the way the judiciary is run at the moment, Mr. Speaker, Is it people who are living in ivory tower, Mr. Speaker? You can't get, you are complaining, the petition you brought here was not satisfying in terms of law, in fact, Mr. Speaker. But if a Kenyan has a complaint, Mr. Speaker, and you take your complaint to the JSC, Mr. Speaker, it can take ages, Mr. Speaker, before that matter is determined, Mr. Speaker, by the JSC himself, Mr. Speaker. And these are Kenyans who have legitimate issues against people who are working in the judiciary, Mr. Speaker. Even the way they have handled some of these petitions, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, you put a fine of 12 million on a person. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think there's anything that warrants anybody to pay 12 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. And I'm speaking, having privilege over the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker. 12 million is abnormality, Mr. Speaker, of any highest order, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, my point, which I don't want to lose, is that as a House, through legislation, Mr. Speaker, we must come up with a mechanism on behalf of the Kenyan people to hold the judiciary accountable. And I propose one of the mechanisms, Mr. Speaker, vetting. There must be vetting after 3 years or 4 years, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, in 5 years' time, I will be vetted by the people of the Republic of Kenya. Who is going to vet them? So there must be a mechanism that is going to vet them, even if it is 3 or 4 years, Mr. Speaker, so that some of these rulings they have made can be ventilated upon and brought, not like the one for Duale. I have no problem with Mr. Speaker. I have no problem. He has won the case, and I'm very happy he has won it. But there are other rulings, Mr. Speaker, that maybe people have issues with them, Mr. Speaker. We must get a way to ventilate on those rulings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you cannot say anything about the judiciary now in this country for now, Mr. Speaker. You will be told, oh, you want to finish the judiciary. No, I support the independence of the judiciary, and they are the custodian of our constitution, Mr. Speaker. When we have issues, we go to the interpretation in the Constitutional Court. When even we pass unconstitutional legislation, we go to them so that they can look at it and verify whether it is constitutional or unconstitutional. But that does not give them, Mr. Speaker, a blanket immunity or amnesty, Mr. Speaker, that there shall not be said anything about them, Mr. Speaker. Because there is an unwritten rule that you are gagged against speaking against the judiciary, Mr. Speaker. You can say anything you want about Parliament, you can say anything you want about the executive, but when it comes to judiciary, it's a no-go zone, Mr. Speaker, even if it is a rotten thing that has happened in that institution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, lawyers should not take offense with me. I'm a Kenyan who needs the services of the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, a case in point is that you go to court, for example, Mr. Speaker, and when you place your matter before the court, Mr. Speaker, you should be able to have sound sleep at night. But people are worried at night. They're not sure of their cases. Thinking that, oh, the other party will reach so-and-so, so-and-so. It has become like a cattle market in Isiolo, Mr. Speaker, where when you give your cow, you bring it to the market, you have to give it to someone to go and sell it on your behalf, and you go sit under a tree waiting for that person to bring you the money. Mr. Speaker, Duale knows what I'm talking about. He has been a cattle trader one time, Mr. Speaker, before he came to Parliament. And he has been the chairman of the Cattle Development Association, Mr. Speaker. That's how we met together in ODM in 2007. He was a serious cattle dealer in Mombasa. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, without losing my point, is that this Parliament is obligated to come, and I am happy the chairman of the Judiciary Legal, JLAC, is here, Mr. Speaker. We must come up with a mechanism to put the judiciary of this country accountable to the people of Kenya. Every budget cycle here, Mr. Speaker, we give a lot of money as Parliament, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much.
Well, of course, recently the report which was issued out on the 15th of December last year on the state of the judiciary and administration of justice in the country is before the House, is before the committee. We expect that when that report...
National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017, second reading.
Honourable members, I'm informed that a total of 19 members and contributed to this, the debate on this bill. And at the time the House rose, an issue of quorum was raised. So any member is at liberty to contribute. Any member who has not spoken to this bill, the Kenya Roads Bill, if I go to, looks like the member for Kikuyu had spoken. Okay, it has been confirmed that you have not spoken. So you want to have a fast shot, or what is? Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having noticed me. I had struggled for you to notice me on the other issue on the judiciary. But since that is long gone, let me contribute on roads, even those that lead to the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, and let me first take this opportunity to thank and congratulate the Chair and the Departmental Committee on Roads and Infrastructure for the enormous work that they put in reviewing this bill. And I know the Honorable Kosing and his committee put in a lot of hours and a lot of work. And indeed, I must congratulate them because it is the first departmental committee in the 12th Assembly to table a report before this House for a substantive bill to be debated. Public were blaming members of parliament for not being able to repair or maintain or even construct new roads. Not knowing, Mr. Speaker, that members of parliament from the year 2015 could not even access money, CDF money, to even do a small village road, since many of these roads had now been classified as county government roads. It's therefore good, Mr. Speaker, that this bill will now make clear that distinction of the reclassification of roads, to know, for Kenyans to know, that other than roads that are classified as class A, B, and C, Mr. Speaker, all the other roads are roads that now fall under the county governments, and the county governments have funds to work on these roads, Mr. Speaker. I therefore implore the Chair and the Departmental Committee on Roads and Infrastructure to make sure that the authorities that are being created under this bill, Mr. Speaker, they clearly mark the assets that fall under the national government, so that we do not also have duplication. Because, Mr. Speaker, again, these are departments, the road sector is one that is bedeviled by corruption, both at the national government and the county governments. And one of the ways, Mr. Speaker, that these things are done is to make sure that a road is allocated money, both at the national level, and when you go to the county level, the same road is marked. But when Kenyans get to understand through marking, because Kera, Kura, Kenha are able to put signboards to say this is a class A road that falls under Kenha. Kenha can do that. Kura can mark its roads in urban centers, because even in urban centers, there are those roads that will now be under Kura, and others that are under the county government, so that we avoid duplication, Mr. Speaker. And Kenyans are able to judge which level of government is not being accountable to the people, because funds are there. And even in the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Mr. Speaker, we have appropriated a lot of money to the road sector, and a lot of money also going to the county governments through the Division of Revenue Bill. Part of that money is designated to do roads. And also the fuel levy funds and funds from the roads board, Mr. Speaker, that is specifically geared towards delivery of better roads for Kenyans. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to implore the Chair and the committee to make sure that the agencies in the road sector do designate and mark those assets that will now fall under them, so that even for members of parliament, you do know the roads in your constituency that will fall under whatever road agency of the national government, and therefore able to follow up with those particular agencies. And also for members of the county assemblies in our counties, and the public at large, to know which roads in their areas, then they should hold their governors, their members of the county assemblies, and their county executives to account for, Mr. Speaker, in terms of delivery on the road sector. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, Mr. Speaker, and I want to urge the committee that moving forward, to also have a very consultative way of engaging with members of parliament, because I do know many members of parliament are yet to know which roads have been classified where, and therefore I would encourage the chair, maybe when we retreat in workshops to get time to be able to explain to members what roads have been classified in which class of roads and which ones will fall under the national government agencies, so that members are able to be able to, even to oversight, Mr. Speaker, because the other thing that happens is that you find many of these roads agencies will come and commence on a road project in a constituency. At times it's roads that are cutting across two constituencies, but the particular members of parliament, Mr. Speaker, are not even aware what agency is doing that road, the funds that have been allocated to that particular project, and therefore members will not be able to oversight. And one of the easiest ways to make sure that there is value for money in the delivery of road projects in this country is to empower members of parliament, because these members of parliament, every Thursday evening, they retreat to their constituencies, and therefore be able to see firsthand and be able to relay that back to this house through the committee, where contractors have stalled roads. Last year and the year before, Mr. Speaker, a lot of road projects commenced in this country, across the country, Mr. Speaker, under the 10,000 kilometer roads project. But many of them, Mr. Speaker, they are contractors who got mobilization funds, the 10% to mobilize equipment. Some mobilized and just left tractors lying there. But members of parliament, those who suffered the fate, Mr. Speaker, the wrath of the public, because the public would see tractors on the road, but there's no work going on. And maybe innocently, those members of parliament did not even know what agency was in charge. But I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, it is easier when members of parliament are well informed what agency is in charge of a particular road to provide first-hand oversight on the ground, and also be able to come back to this house and hold the particular agencies to account, so that we do not have a situation where we have so many kilometers of roads with contractors who have been commissioned to start work, and work has stalled, and nobody back in Nairobi knows what is going on. But these members of parliament who are going back to their constituencies every other weekend will be able to relay that information back, and also help the executive, the ministry, to make sure that they're able also to weed out those contractors that are not able to deliver on time, Mr. Speaker. And maybe the only other thing, final thing, Mr. Speaker, I want to mention is the overlap. Because there is clearly, and that is for the chair in the committee, an overlap between many roads that were urban roads, and now some that are being managed by Kenha, others that were Kenha but now are being managed by Kura, and there are contracts that had already been given, Mr. Speaker, and I have a case in point of the bypasses, Mr. Speaker, that have been done around the city. Many of them were constructed by Kenha, but a few of them now are coming under the mandate of Kura. And therefore, there may be ongoing contracts, and the chair and the committee and the ministry must ensure that there's a very smooth transition, so that again, when at the end of those contracts, maintenance contracts, Mr. Speaker, the agencies that had contracted the roads are not unable to hand over the maintenance contracts. Because maintenance contracts, Mr. Speaker, and is a new thing that I have seen in the last 3 years under the Jubilee administration, Mr. Speaker, is something that has helped maintain those roads in a serviceable manner and save this country billions of shillings. Because in the past, Mr. Speaker, roads could be done, but they go for 10 years without anyone ever having even mended a pothole. But today, we are seeing a new culture where after construction of roads, there is a maintenance contract, ensuring that every time there's a pothole, even simple things like clearing drainage, because many of these roads get damaged because of water flooding on the roads, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I want to encourage the ministry and the committee oversighting that ministry to make sure that there is a very smooth transition in terms of handover of the assets between the different agencies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, of course, I hope the other chairs of departmental committees can emulate the chair of roads, public and housing, to see how a chair remains to listen to the contribution from other members, so that at the appropriate time he will be able to respond from knowledge and information shared from other colleagues. So I would like to encourage the chairs of other departmental committees that when debates on the bills that have been referred to you is happening, because we have decided that chairs will also be getting not less than 30 minutes or even such longer times as they will require to give report to the House about their engagement, their general feeling as a committee about the bill, and what the stakeholders have said. So that when the chair like the Honorable Kosing, because I've been watching since the debate began, he's not left the chamber. I hope you have a vice chair, so that when you want to step...
They have a lot of it. Yet they don't want to acknowledge that for the last 5 years, this government has done wonders in the area of infrastructure. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to really ask the chair not to listen to some of these things that are being said about some areas being favored. I want to tell the chair that some of us have been out there watching and waiting patiently so that our time can come, so that we can also enjoy these tarmac loads just like any other person who is out there. And I know that the government is doing this equitably. Anytime this year, I'm confident that our roads, the 3 short loads in my constituency, the most populated constituency, urban constituency in this country, will also be done, and we will enjoy as much as other people are enjoying. Madam Speaker, I want to support the report by the committee and thank them for the job well done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, the member for Moya. Honorable members, next on my request is the member for Arianda, the Honorable Tiende Amolo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill and to congratulate the Committee on Roads. Madam Speaker, I've had occasion to read the bill in its entirety and the accompanying report. And so while I support it, I have 5 observations to make. Madam Speaker, the first observation is on page 1510 of this bill, that is section 7. I note with concern, Madam Speaker, that the authority, the Public Roads Standards Board that is proposed, excludes completely any representation from the counties. And yet this board is supposed to regulate both the roads that fall under the counties and the roads that fall under the national government. I propose that the committee should consider including perhaps the representative of the Council of Governors or such other representative as may be said to represent county governments. I appreciate, as noted in the report, that section 7(1)H has been changed from the Institution of Engineers to the Engineers Board of Kenya, and I think that is commendable. My second comment, Madam Speaker, is on section 23 that appears on page 1523. Section 23 helpfully requires that the boards observe ethnic and regional balance and also observes the 2/3 gender principle. My problem, Madam Speaker, my third observation, Madam Speaker, is on section 37, that is page 1527. And there is the one that requires each authority to deliver within a period of 4 months of the end of the financial year an annual report. And in section 37(2)B, it also requires to be included as part of that annual report a copy of the audited accounts. Madam Speaker, it is on record, and the Auditor General has told this House severally, that it is impractical to audit any authority within 3 months of the end of the financial year. It is clear, and it is on record, that within the first 4 months after the end of the financial year, all that the auditor's office does is to receive the financial statements. I would therefore like to suggest that the inclusion of this provision is impractical and it does not help. But I understand that the committee's hands are tied by Article 229, because it's Article 229 that generally requires such reports from the Auditor General within 3 months. Madam Speaker, I'd like to suggest a solution that might not only help these authorities, but might help a way of getting around Article 229. And I'd like to suggest that the authority, that the committee could consider making this provision that that annual report be submitted within 3 months of the beginning of the calendar month rather than the financial year. So that in default, it will not breach Article 229, but in essence, it allows these authorities 6 months of the, in fact, slightly more than 6 months, almost 8 months of the end of the beginning of the financial year. So that if you say within 3 months of the beginning of the calendar year, then it allows the auditor's office about 4 or 5 months of auditing and issuing an audited report, and then that audited report will be included in the report. Madam Speaker, this is not speculative. As the chair of the Commission on Administrative Justice, I adopted this approach, and it is the approach that enabled us to submit to this House every year a report that included the audited accounts. Madam Speaker, my fourth observation is on section 46, and that is page 1531. Madam Speaker, this relates to acquisition of land for purposes of use, sometimes in emergencies, sometimes in necessity. Madam Speaker, what is not clear on that section, and it's clear on page 12 of the report, is that the report expressly says it allows the acquisition of such land for roadworks and any land, including private land. So we should read section 46 with a clear knowledge that we are possibly also including private property. And if we are including private property, Madam Speaker, then we must be alive to the provisions of Article 40. And Article 40 is very clear in terms of acquisition of private property without due compensation. My concern in this section, Madam Speaker, is that if you come to section 46(5), it then provides for compensation, but it says short of the threshold in Article 35. But more fundamentally, there's already an entire act passed by this House, the Access to Information Act, which dedicates in great detail how and in what circumstances one is to obtain information from public entities. I'm afraid, Madam Speaker, that section 96 not only falls short of the threshold in Article 35, it is also of a lesser pedigree than the Access to Information Act. But more importantly, because we already have that act, we do not require this entire section 96 because it's provided for in another legislation. I'd like to respectfully suggest to the committee that it would serve them well to delete that entire section. Madam Speaker, with that, I support this bill.
Your support. The honorable member representing the people of Igembe Central. Honorable
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this bill. And Madam Speaker, I rise to support the bill as it has been laid in the House by the committee, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill will go a long way to cure a lot of issues which have been developing the roads for infrastructure in the country, and at the same time, Madam Speaker, at least to bring harmony and also spell out the boundaries and the levels which each and every arm of the government should go, Madam Speaker. Currently, Madam Speaker, the road network in this country and the infrastructure for that matter is wanting, and the government needs to spend a lot and also do proper planning, and at the end of the day, put a lot of money so that we can cope with the current influx of road usage, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if I may recall, the Thika Superhighway, Madam Speaker, when it was, they started constructing it in the, during the Kibaki era, we thought it would solve a lot of problems with the congestion of our roads in this country, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, to date, those snarl-ups and the jams in the morning and the evening are still being experienced. And this is because, Madam Speaker, once a project has been muted and has to be done, it had no time frame on when it should be done. And by the time the government is prepared to do the same, it has been overtaken by events, Madam Speaker. And therefore, it is prudent that once this law is in place, that once this law has been put in place, once a project has been started, it must be seen to be done to the end, Madam Speaker. As we by the Minister of Roads, through the Treasury, so that at the end of the day, if a road has been allocated money, Madam Speaker, that money should be there. It should not be in paper. It should be there so that that work can be done, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today I've spent the whole day trying to quell pricings in my constituency, whereby there is a road which had been given money through the Minister of Tourism, Madam Speaker. And because of the bureaucracy in the Minister of Infrastructure, because of the bureaucracy in Kera, Madam Speaker, they jumbled with the figures and papers until at the end of the day, that funding was overtaken by events, and now they have to go back to the Treasury again to ask for the same. Whereas they don't know that on the ground, people are asking, where is the road which was promised to us? And at the end of the day, whoever is on the person at the receiving end is the MP. It is saying the MP has not done this. And the people on the ground, the citizens, they don't know exactly who should do the roads. And therefore, this bill should come out clearly and spell out who is supposed to do these roads. And it should be known and put clearly that the MP is an oversight public officer who is the eyes of the public and who needs to be told what is happening and when, so that at least when the public demand to know, as a mouthpiece of the public, one can give that information, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill is also going out of is going in the right direction of talking how when you acquire property, when you acquire people's land for the purpose of putting a road or a bridge or even putting a railway line, there is clear there's a clear way where you are going to compensate that particular person. There are those pipelines which pass along the roads, Madam Speaker. The bill has also spelled it clearly. Presently, Madam Speaker, you will find that if a road is passing in a certain place, the contractor will come and damage pipelines which had been laid down by the public with a lot of expenses. They destroy the pipeline, they don't repair the same, people go without water, and they have to go back again to their pockets or seek donors or do a base so that they can make that line again. The contractors should be made to repair the road, I mean the pipe, and also if it need be, the land which has been acquired, if it is private land, it needs to be compensated, Madam Speaker, for the purposes of doing the roads. Madam Speaker, these days, when a contractor has been given work, usually they are in their BQ or in their quotation, they put even money so where they can do a road or a link road or a road which can be used temporarily as they do the main road. But these days, Madam Speaker, they end up closing the roads completely. They inconvenience the public. They inconvenience the road users by crossing the road under the guise that they are making a new road. Madam Speaker, despite the fact that we are doing roads, despite the fact that we are doing a good road, yes, it's welcome. But then other activities, day-to-day activities of the people of that particular area should be also put into account and should be respected and should not be interrupted in any way, so that at least it can be easy, people can do their work easily without any interruptions. Madam Speaker, currently, the form of the way the roads are classified, it has become very difficult for us to know which road should be done by the county government and the road which should be done by the national government. Sometimes people complain and say that the MP is not doing a road going to a certain village inside the villages. And when you tell them this road belongs to the county government, nobody listens to that one. And the MCA might use it as a scapegoat and fail to do that road or that small footpath or that bridge in the guise that it should be done by the MP, Madam Speaker. Therefore, I propose this bill should also include in its board, the board for the roads board, it needs to include members of the county assembly so that when these things are being done, it is easy for them to identify those small roads inside the villages which need to be repaired, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are roads which connect constituencies and others, roads connecting counties and others. Today, Madam Speaker, before I came to this house, August House, this afternoon, I was in the CS Infrastructure Roads office complaining that there are roads which are in my constituency which have already been put under the county government, whereas they have been maintained by KERA, which is about to be disbanded by this bill, and get to the secondary roads board, which will handle roads which connect constituencies with another one. I have already connecting my constituency from Shanina to Isiolo, and it joins another county. But you find it being put into as a road under the county government, Madam Speaker. When we interlock these roads, it becomes very difficult to identify which road should be done by this or the other arm of the government. Therefore,
within the areas of the roads where roads are supposed to occupy. Because you find some living here without knowing. After they have built their houses, after they have built their beautiful whatever retail shops, they are actually abolished, and that's exactly what they had. They are really suffering. And I think, Chair, you need to take that one serious, that these authorities must enforce that law. They must ensure that when they are constructing roads, they must tell Kenyans, they must tell the people living there that they should not actually occupy areas that are meant for roads, so that they know it early instead of them suffering. The other thing, Chair, that I want us to take it seriously. Yes, the government has allocated funds to these roads. Secondly, we have awarded contracts to the contractors. But we find Kenyans have been denied that justice most of the time because of these contractors. They take time to finish what they are supposed actually to do. Others, when they are supposed to take 1 year, they take 2 years to construct a road. Yet Kenyans are really waiting for this road, these services. Kenyans have the right to get these services at the right time. But when a contractor takes 6 years to construct a road that was supposed to be constructed in 1 year, don't you think that is denying Kenyans justice? Yeah? So this one should be corrected. The authorities we are actually putting in place must correct these anomalies. If a contractor is supposed to finish a road in 1 year, you should not give a contractor a contract if you do not have money. You should give the contractor a contract when you have money, so that the contractor takes the time that is in the contract. So, Chair, that one must be taken seriously. The other issue, because the other issue that is there, and I have experience for that for Lodwar, Kitale Lodwar Road, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other thing where Kenyans are really suffering, for example, when there is a collapse of a section of a road in a place, or a collapse of a bridge, Madam Speaker, it takes the whole 5 years, more than 5 years, for it actually to be maintained, for it to be constructed. And Madam Speaker, it is not the mistake of Kenyans for that road to collapse. It is uncertainty. And I think when we are allocating funds, Bwana Chair, we must also allocate funds that are specified to do these repairs, emergency that actually happens, because sometimes there is a lot of rain for Madam Speaker. Most of these roads are they collapse, Madam Speaker. And when we are putting funds, Madam Speaker, on the budget, we must take care of these uncertainties. We should not always run of emergencies. Because, for example, I remember in my place, Madam Speaker, and I think we all saw it as colleagues, the Kainuk Bridge. It is now taken 6 years, Madam Speaker. 6 years. Every time the vehicles come here, Kenyans, school children come here and stay 2 months without accessing actually the services, Madam Speaker. And I think we have really to correct that, Madam Speaker, because it is very important for people coming from rural areas, Madam Speaker, to access these services, because for us, I have been seeing good roads here in Nairobi, and I only saw once before I was born, the one you call Lodwa, Nini Kitale Lodwa Road, Madam Speaker. And I think this authority, this bill, will make my county to access with the road. The other issue, Madam Speaker, which is very important, and I need the committee to listen very carefully, is the file for money, Madam Speaker. I realize that there is a big irregularity when it comes to costing of these roads, Madam Speaker. And I've always set an example, for example, you will find the same road that we can call it account road, which is, for example, 5 kilometers, Madam Speaker. You will find county government constructing it with 20 million. And the so-called Kura or Kera constructing the same road with 2 million. So you wonder, why are these ones who are using 15 million, why are they getting money? And this one which are using 2 million. This money comes from the same treasury. But we are wasting, Madam Speaker. So we must put a law, Bwana Chair. I think, are you listening, Bwana Chair? Chair for roads, you are not listening.
I can confirm that the chair is listening to you.
He's not listening, Madam Speaker. I also have eyes. I was seeing what he was doing. But, Madam Speaker,
carry on the chair. I'm sure the chair is taking notes, but we congratulate him that for him being here. Others are never.
Yes, I want him to be very careful because we come from.
Maybe to add on, then I remember. Then we have the chair in the 11th Parliament who was there. I can see them consulting the Honorable Commander. So you're safe. Anyway, carry on.
I think you must have private consultation to share your experiences. Bwana Chair, this is what I was really saying, that you have to consider, you have established these very important authorities. You have allocated them funds. As members representative of the people, we are questioning about their file for money. How you cost these roads? And I've set an example where I have Kera constructed a road of 5 kilometers with 2 million. And then the county government came and constructed the same. They call it graveling. The same, just graveling and taking the bushes with 15 million. 15 million. And these funds are coming to the same treasury. We have to correct that anomaly. We don't have money to waste. People are still lacking water. People do not have health services. We need to utilize these funds. We need to cost, if it is the Ministry of Works which is supposed to cost all roads, they must cost all roads from this, whether count road, whether whatever, they must cost it and ensure the value of money is actually taken into care. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I really support.
Thank you, Honorable Lominen, the member for Turkana. Members, I'm sure the chair is taking notes, and we still have maybe the possible amendments in the third reading, and we thank you for being in the House. The public should know what the members of Parliament do in the House. The member for Makueni, Honorable Manso, you were here, you left your card there.
No, Madam Speaker, I've been queuing since 2:30. And
member.
it's all that I walked out briefly to handle a matter
Yes,
for another
your
member. So it's rightly so, my card has been here, Madam Speaker.
Yes, your card has been there, but you went out to consult it.
Yes, to consult one of the members. And first of all, I want to thank the chair for roads for being here, and even the former chair. I think many other chairs should copy this example when matters are being debated related to their committees. And this particularly is a very, very important law, and I'm very grateful to the Honorable Commander for the input you did. I have looked at the first schedule, Madam Speaker, and I've seen the new classification of roads, Madam Speaker. But just before this happened, I think somebody was trying to be mischievous in the Ministry of Roads, because there has been a new reclassification just last year, whereby you found a certain road was belonging to Kenha, it all of a sudden becomes Keras. Then another road which was being done by Kera has already become a county road, even before this law had been passed. And I think this was an attempt defeat the purpose of this act. And I believe strongly, Madam Speaker, that it should be relooked again so that the clarification is done afresh. Immediately we pass this law, of course, with amendments. You've heard the contributions of the Honorable Otiendo Molo, which are very specific with the law. And definitely I want to agree with him, especially connecting between Mwingi North and the Tharaka. And it's a bridge which has served Kenyans for many years, which was instigated by the former member of parliament of that area, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. And you find that it saved people a lot of distance in those two counties. And people will go around and will travel very far to access a bridge. It's just a metallic bridge which a vehicle can cross one by one, and they serve the purpose. And if we had such bridges in many other parts of similar rivers, Madam Speaker, it will really help, especially in the case of Makueni and Kitui, where we have, the people have to travel many kilometers to be able to access. That has not been captured well here. The sort of bridges here are the ones which are to be constructed with the roads and their classes, Madam Speaker. That does not really serve Kenyans. And I believe the input on Parliament is very important, and the committee, to the engineers who are part of this. The other thing is the design of roads. With the new reality in the world that we have now cyclists, motorbikes, the roads still remain with the old designs, even these new classes we have come up with. It will save a lot of accidents and lives and expenditures in terms of medical care if we reduce motorbike accidents, which are quite common now, and most of the people are very well-meaning traveling Kenyans. In fact, a lot of mothers take the motorbikes with their children who have no choice, assuming that risk because the mother is accompanying them. And where we don't have anywhere where motorbikes can ride through, and the design of the road takes care of that, we'll be, in fact, easing traffic, and we'll be saving many lives, and especially of children who don't have the opportunity to make that particular choice, and reduce road accidents and expenditure. And I think it should, if need be, it should come as part of this law, so that in certain classes of roads, that design is automatic, so that when it is implemented, we are able to save lives and accidents. And this originates actually from this particular bill. It should be part of it, so that Kenyans could find themselves enjoy the privilege of being Kenyans, and the decision of Parliament and the decision of the relevant ministry. I would also encourage that particular ministry to cultivate good relations with Parliament, so that when it comes to allocation of these monies and lobby for the budget, it happens. A lot of times roads have been budgeted for, time expires, they have not been done, the monies go back to Treasury, and they used to give the Honorable Commander a very difficult time now again to go for the money, again from Treasury, which they returned. And I hope the chair will find a lot of assistance from the Honorable Commander when it comes to helping the Department of Roads. And the solution to that is making sure the money is utilized in the financial year, that the roads are tendered in good time, they are constructed in good time, so that the money stops going back. At the same time, we must synchronize between the counties and the national government. That is clearly missing from this bill. That the mechanism, and even the Honorable Otiendo Molo has pointed that, so that in this particular board, the county government is represented, and the decisions which are made there, they do not need to be repeated again by the counties. In Makueni, we had the case of the road connecting Okia and Mali, and in fact that road originates from Loitoktok, can go through Makueni constituency, it goes through 5 constituencies in Ukambani, and finally connects to Thika. It's another way of a bypass to the overloaded Mombasa Road, which is now supposed to be connected by dual carriage from Nairobi to Mombasa. And in fact, I understand the international community, and particularly the United States of America, are keen to fund that particular project. Already it has started on the way to Machakos Junction, but it would have been better if it extended to Konza City as a dual carriage for now, because it's going to be done into phases, because I'm sure after the construction of Wakadam, which is in very advanced stages now, and most road is going to be launched next month, we're going to have a concert city, and it's good to plan in a manner that we synchronize the different developments in the country so that the road networks makes it a reality. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I do apologize to a few members who didn't see me walking out to assist a fellow member. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Manso, member for Makwene constituency. The Honorable member for Tharaka, Honorable Muru Gara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand to support this bill. And first and foremost, I thank the chairman of the committee for being resilient enough to stay in the House and listen to what members have to say in a contribution and the furtherance of the aims and objectives of the bill. The committee did a fantastic job, and therefore the bill we have needs just some slight touches, and we have one of the best laws to govern the roads sector in the country in the furtherance of the fourth schedule of the Constitution. Few comments on the bill. It is quite timely because we need to consolidate and bring together all the laws that relate to the roads system in the country. We need our roads system managed properly and effectively, and it is important that public roads are dealt with both by the national government and by the county government, and this brings in the essence of separating what are the national roads and what are the county roads. It's also vitally important that we do have a public roads and standards board which will regulate and maintain the quality of roads in the country. Complaints are rampant that contractors are getting roads that possibly would take 1 year to construct, but you find 3-4 years down the line, a contractor is still on the road, and the work that is being done cannot be said to be of standard. I emphasize that there has been a lot of weight on our highways, on the urban roads, at the expense of rural roads. And in rural areas, in those rural constituencies where we come from, that is where the vast majority of Kenyans live, that is where they reside, that is where they expect to get good service roads so that they are able to do their day-to-day business, whether it is agriculture, whether it is business, whether it is whatever it is. This is where emphasis needs to be laid when we are working on the roads system. It is important that I go to my constituency of Tharaka and relate the road situation in that constituency to this new bill. And I say again, I'm happy to have the chairman here because he notes what I'm going to say, especially Tharaka being a marginalized area, Tharaka being one of the constituencies with the worst poor, bad road networks in the country. The constituency needs special consideration, needs special attention, so that at least it is felt that the government is also taking care of the people of Tharaka. That notwithstanding, we have a tarmac road which was commenced some 3 years ago, which is supposed to cover 36 kilometers, but to the dismay of everybody, the contractor has simply done only 8 kilometers from a town in Tharaka North known as Gatunga to Marimanti, which is the constituency headquarters. He still has a lot to do to move the road from Marimanti to Chakariga, and eventually it has also to move from Gatunga to Uragate so that we join the Meru National Park. There is a hue and a cry regarding this contractor from the residents, and I constantly remind him that we will revisit. We will have to look at his contract because he is not delivering to the people of Tharaka what they are getting from the national government. It's also important to bring to the attention of the chairman and the committee that that is the only tarmac road in that constituency. We are eyeing another road that comes from Meru town on its way to a town called Miomponi in Tharaka. That road is being tarmacked with a low volume grading, which we believe is suitable and sustainable for the constituency. And I would therefore urge the government to move that road from Miomponi to Nkondi and to Gatunga. Then we have another road that comes from Meru Central, that is in Meru County, through Metungu, and it does not extend to Tharaka. That is the road that passes through Mokoni to Kibonga and Marimanti. I again urge the government to consider these roads because they actually should be tarmacked. They are the major roads that serve the people of Tharaka, and it is vitally important that they are made to standard for the benefit of the people. We have what has always been known as the Kenya Rural Roads Authority, KERA, and this is the authority that is supposed to maintain roads in the constituency under the guidance of the Member of Parliament. Unfortunately, in most constituencies, and especially in my constituency of Tharaka, this authority allocates only 30 million to the maintenance, upgrading, and sustenance of the roads. There is very little that can be done with 30 million Kenya shillings, and I would urge the committee to make a recommendation to the government that whatever authority is going to take over rural roads is awarded more money, much, much more than 30 million, so that even those roads that lead from village to village, those roads that connect small towns are also well maintained and well kept for purposes of good communication to the local people. I would urge the government, the member of Makueni has just made an important contribution touching on Kitui County and Tharaka Nithi County, where there is a bridge that links the two, but it is the only bridge in a span of more than 80 kilometers. I am urging the government that, especially between Tharaka and Kitui, there is need for another two bridges to be constructed on the roads that join the two counties for purposes of making communication, trade, and whatever other activities have to take place between Kitui County and Tharaka Nithi County feasible. There is a road, a major road, that joins Kitui County and Tharaka Nithi County. The road that passes through Kavangacheni, it goes to Usweni. It is a major road maintained by the county government, which actually is now to be upgraded so that it goes to be maintained by the national government. It would be my plea that we actually get this road also done for purposes of easier communication within the constituency. Therefore, the chairman, who is here with me, I'm urging him to make sure that in the report that goes to the government, in the recommendations that he makes to the government, and even in the budget estimates that he has just approved, he needs to consider Tharaka constituency as one of the areas that are in dire need of road infrastructure. And those roads extend from classes A, B, C, and they also go to D and finally E. My contribution to this bill is that we now need this law in place. It is a law that is going to help Kenyans. It is a law that is going to help our constituents in realizing their dreams of having good roads cutting across the vast areas of the rural constituencies in the country. So finally, it is my plea that we do pass this law. We do support this law so that it is enacted. We try to consolidate the various laws that are in place, and it even becomes easier to understand the laws that we have and the laws that govern our roads system in the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rest my submission there. Thank you.
You raise your submission. Good representation of the people of Tharaka constituency. The honorable members, I have 14 requests. Members want to contribute to this bill. Maybe for reminder, we are on the Kenya Roads Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017. Next on my request list is the member for Nyambale, and before I give you the mic of the floor, no members allow me give member from the other gender. Honorable Adalanga Kahai. Want to? Then we'll come to honorable member for number 2. The Honorable Adagala Kahai, member for Vihiga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important bill that is touching on most of us from the counties we come from. Yeah, I want to thank you, the chair, for this committee, for the good work you've done. And I want to say there's need to recognize the two levels of government, the national government and the 47 county governments. The Constitution of 2010 equally recognized that there shall be national roads and county roads. Therefore, the only roads authority to serve interests of the nation is the Kenya, that is KENHA. The national government should not purport to impose rules other authorities. Moreover, KERA and KURA, they should channel budgetary allocations to counties of those powerful positions to the disadvantage of the rest of the counties. The government should make sure that all counties should be given proper budget allocations for the roads to be constructed, not to favor certain counties. We want a transparent formula for sharing out roads development and maintenance budgets in which all counties will receive good share of the budget. This will also greatly harness national cohesion as it will reduce near-death-like competition that is in presidential elections in this country. I know once you touch there, the warrior blood in Honorable Songok arises, but...
And this has been the promise that has been given by the president, and I was the chair, and I made sure that equality in every part of the country were carried out. And those who are the areas that maybe were not touched at that time, the program, the chair is here, is on, and maybe is going to be rolled out this time. The only thing I would advise to the new members, when you say you don't vet some ministers, at the end of the day, you will require to go to those ministers for some of these things for your constituents to be served. So it is important also. And this is just to, and you know Dr. Kibugishi, who is my friend for a long time, he knows that. My friend there, he knows that at the end of the day, if you want, the people who elected you, it's not how much you shout in this house. It is how you follow with the relevant departments of the government and the government of the day to deliver to your people. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the chair because at this time he managed to bring something I was unable. I was unable to bring the entire, I was unable to bring the governors to agree on this bill.
Honorable Commander, there is an intervention by Honorable Kingola Makau.
Madam Speaker, with all due respect of Honorable Commander, is he in order to tell or inform members in this House that you are coming back here will be determined of how much work you did to them. And we are well aware that he lost the Sare parliamentary seat while he was the chair, roads. Does it mean that he did not do any work, not only for Sare, but also for Kenya?
Honorable member, that was his observation, that was his advice. So I will
Let me answer to
There's-
my friend. I never lost the
before-
seat.
Before you answer, thank you. It's a house of debate. Thank you. It's a house of debate, honorable members, and I'm sure he's going to, as he contributes, he may be able to throw something. There's an intervention by the Honorable Ahmed Shabir. Is anything?
Thank you. Honorable Commander, sir. Thank you first, Madam Speaker. Honorable Commander, you took away a big percentage of our CDF, and you misled us to believe that you were going to put them in roads in our constituencies.
Order, order.
No, that's the point of order,
Now
madam.
you are out of order.
I'm not out of
You are
order.
out of honorable members.
It is
You
it's
are
a very
serving your
relevant.
second
It's
term.
very relevant to the.
You are out of order. Number one, when the speaker is talking or is addressing, you don't continue speaking. The honorable member and members, it is important when you raise, don't raise to argue, don't raise, just raise your point of order. Otherwise, you'll get your time to contribute and may revert. So unless you're saying honorable member is out of order, not taking CDF on this standing order, and you, in future you'll be quoting your standing order.
Thank you.
What is out of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
But
As-
during your time, I'm sure you'll bring that one out.
my friend there, he knows very well that we did a lot of work with that money. My mayor there, you know, I didn't lose the election. If I lost the election, I could not have been in this house. So I'm in this house because I didn't lose the election. If I lost the election, we are together now here. Which way? Eh? So I never lost the election, Madam Speaker. I'm in this house. So, Madam, and I'm the chair of another committee. And you are not even a chair of any. Madam Speaker, on the issues of, Madam Speaker, of the contractors, maybe that is the area I would wish the chair
And
to look
you
at.
have only 2 minutes, honorable member.
The issue of contractors, Madam Speaker, that is where we have a major problem. And I would urge the chair to be extremely careful on the people who are given contracts. Because when I toured most of the projects out there, Madam Speaker, every area, everybody was asking Chinese contractor. Our people down there, they have lost confidence with our local contractors. Majority, they have lost confidence because once you award the contract to them, first what they do, if one had a debt somewhere, go and service the debt. Then the remaining part is when what you are going to do the road with, and you find at the end of the day, most of the roads that are doing by our African contractors cannot be completed on time. That is a very challenging area. The other point that I would like to pinpoint, because I was the chair of that committee for 5 years, and I interacted very well with the members then, to a point that members were pursuing on how certain contractors can be given contracts. And that is where we go wrong as a house. Because the moment you push for a contractor, even in your own constituency, if that contractor doesn't perform, you will not be able to discipline. I wish you can listen to this, Chairman.
That is 10,000 divided by 290. I don't have a single road in Lukiani. So I don't know where these 10,000 kilometer roads are. Third, Madam Speaker, and again, this goes to the chairman of the committee. Their recommendation, when you look at the recommendation of the committee, the recommendation says that Class D roads, because the bill had put Class D roads under Kenya National Secondary Roads Authority, which was previously KERA. But now, according to the committee's report, they say there was a legal notice that was signed by the transitional government, which transferred Class D roads to the counties. So Class D roads became part of the county roads. Madam Speaker, I'd just like to know whether a legal notice is superior to an act of parliament. Because why am I saying this? I'm saying this because in the rural area, in rural constituencies like Lukuyani, there's very little difference between a Class C and a Class D road. They all serve the same, and when you look at even the definitions that have been given, the definitions are very similar, okay? So I would like us to, as we go forward, Madam Speaker, I would like the committee, I wish the chairman will be listening. The chairman of the committee.
Chairman.
The chairman of the committee is too busy discussing. I know we have problems back home, don't worry. I would like us to, on a very serious note, look at two things. One, let us get Class D road back to KERA, what we used to know as KERA, because members of parliament know KERA more than this other new animal called Kenya National Secondary Roads, something. That will be very good because like you say, and like Mheshimiwa Commander has said, and like many people have said, many members of parliament, some of our former colleagues who didn't come back to this parliament, who are there with us in the 11th parliament, didn't make it because of roads. And if we are, and right now, once we have defined who does what, it becomes very difficult for you to jump and go and do something that is in the purview of the county government, for example. And that is why we are saying, as much as possible, let us get the Class D roads back to the KERA, and let us increase allocation of money to KERA. Because according to your recommendations, you had actually reduced the amount of money. The bill had proposed 30%, you reduced it to 28%. So I suggest that. And once we get Class D road back to KERA, then we can comfortably reduce the amount of money going to the counties. That is what I would like to ask you. Finally, also ask you, because I was talking about something that you didn't, I would like you to make arrangements if all members of parliament can get to have a schedule of their roads, individual roads that are maybe from C to D. It will help us very much so that we get to know where our mandate falls when we are looking at these roads in our constituents. Finally, Madam Speaker, just as by the way, I would like to ask, and many people have talked about this, the road from Mombasa to Nairobi all the way to Malaba. I think that is the lifeline of Kenyans. And we should put forward a very, very strong recommendation that this road is made a dual carriageway. It will be very important because most of us who travel on that road when we go back home, at the moment, there are just by far too many accidents. So if we were to dual it, it might be very good. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me that time to air.
Thank you, the Honorable Member Likuyani. Honorable Kevin Wanyonyi, Member for Kwanza.
I'm the lucky one because I've been here from 2 o'clock. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, first and foremost, this bill, and first and foremost, I want to thank the chairman of this committee. I've seen him here since 2 o'clock. He has not been moved. And I wish that other chairmen will follow suit because we discuss some of these things in vain. They come, in fact, some of them are not able to present whatever they have been given. And I want my brother, Mheshimiwa, to keep it up, and I think you've taken most of the notes. And there have been very good contribution, Madam Speaker, on the roads. And therefore, we are waiting for the third reading of this bill so that I can be able to now incorporate the comments from the members of parliament, which in my own view, they have been very, very useful, including what Honorable Kibunguchi has said and others. And I think if we had the same thing last committee, maybe we'll be much more informed than what we are today. So this bill will cure members, will cure some of the problems we've had in the past. There is this Kera, Kura, Kenha. Most people do not know. And I think we use civic education to be able to have the members, because as somebody mentioned, and the new members, I just want to tell you, most of my colleagues who I thought were very good could not make it back because of the poor road infrastructure. People actually take members of parliament to be in charge of all the roads in the sub-counties. And therefore, I think it's good that, if you don't mind, can I make a contribution before, Madam Chair? Could you allow me to make some little comments before my colleagues? Yeah. So can you be able to, I want to just make 2 comments that may be useful in your summary of what we are discussing.
You want the chairman to listen to you?
Yeah, to listen to this.
The chairman is still consulting.
Yeah.
All members.
You
So-
can
so he's still
console after you're
listening.
finished. Yeah, he's on handset. I didn't think he's going to listen to the handset. So first and foremost, the redesigning of the roads. We have many vehicles today than before. Every week we have new vehicles on the road, and therefore there's a need for us to redesign, particularly the urban areas, the emergency lane. Because you come from a place like South Bay or wherever, and even in my own area from Westlands, and if it's an emergency, the ambulances struggle to take those who have been hurt to the hospitals. So there's need for us to incorporate that redesigning. Funds are well available. Of course, you get to Uhuru Highway, there's a small provision for redesigning emergency lanes. If you go to most developed countries, you have that, Madam Speaker, because I've seen myself. In fact, about 3 months ago, just in my Nyayo Stadium, I had to come out of the vehicle with my bodyguard to clear the road for an ambulance, which of course was carrying a patient because it kept on making noise. And people don't even care. Once it's in front, he doesn't care. So there's also need for us, Chair, to redesign for prosperity, maybe not next year, but for prosperity to be able to have the emergency lane. And 2, I think somebody mentioned, and I hope you took note of that, for us to be able to understand which road belongs to who. They should then have the signposts on those roads, because for me, I'm blamed for all the roads. And for heaven's sake, Madam Chair, there are roads which were taken to the county government. And up to now, I don't know which ones. And so you go to even attend a simple funeral, and they're saying, Mheshimiwa, you have not done this road is impossible. Even the one that actually connect some villages, which belong to the county. So again, I think maybe if it's probably, I don't know, members of course would have to take a view on that one, probably have signposts showing this road belongs to Kera, this road belongs to Kenha, this road becomes Kura, and this one is, I think, CD or whatever, Kera, so that can people to know which roads actually belong to you. Otherwise, we are blamed. And I'm sure members who are here, the old members, know that we are blamed for all the roads. But if you have signposts showing this road going to there is Kera, this one is Kura, this one is Kenha, one be able to understand. So lastly and not least, Madam Speaker, I think last Parliament, we sat in this House and talked about 20 kilometers for constituencies that do not have tarmac. What happened? I need an answer to this one. Because personally, Madam Speaker, I've gone to Kera. I have gone to the Ministry of Infrastructure, following up the roads, because I don't have any tarmac. And of course, is it because I belong to NASA that these roads have not come to me? Because I go to Kera, Madam Speaker, I've gone to Kera, and I'm told your roads are there, and I'm saying this, and I hope the engineer in charge of Kera is listening to me. I've been there more than 4 years. Chair, save me from this one. And you're my neighbor. Apart from you be...
Miaka miwili, utapata barabara ile ile serikali inatumia pesa kukarabati ile barabara mamilioni pesa mengine. Kutokana na tatizo hili, Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kutoa maoni yangu katika swala zima hili. Ikiwa mkandarasi amepewa kazi ya kutengeneza barabara yenye thamani ya pesa, kuwe na mkataba baina ya mkandarasi na serikali ya kuhakikisha kwamba kwa muda wa miaka 5 ama 10 kwa gharama ile ile asi kutengeneza barabara, kisha baada ya miaka 2 barabara ile ile serikali yatafuta pesa kwenda kuifanyia marekebisho, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mkandarasi huyu anapewa ile kazi, Mheshimiwa Spika, ili pesa hizi ziweze kuwasaidia Wakenya kwa namna nyingine, ihakikisho ya kwamba ataiangalia barabara ile kwa muda wa miaka 10. Ikiwa kutakuwa na tatizo, yeye ndiye atahusika kwenda kurekebisha barabara ile, Mheshimiwa Spika. Hii itasaidia pesa ambazo serikali wanatumia kwa namna hii kuweza kutotumika, Mheshimiwa Spika. Vile vile itasaidia kwamba mkandarasi yeyote atakayepewa kazi ataifanya kulingana na ile standard inayotakikana, Mheshimiwa Spika. Vile vile, Mheshimiwa Spika, katika swala hili la barabara utapata kwamba kilomita 100 anapewa mkandarasi mmoja kutengeneza barabara hiyo. Thamani ya pesa ni bilioni 10-20, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mkandarasi huyu, Mheshimiwa Spika, anatumia miaka 10 ama miaka 7 kutengeneza barabara ile ya kilomita 100. Kwa nini, Mheshimiwa Spika, barabara ile ile ya kilomita 100 isigawanywe kupewa wakandarasi 5 kwa mfano? Kila mkandarasi akapewa kilomita 20, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ikiwa mkandarasi yule atapewa yeye kutumia kilomita 100, Mheshimiwa Spika, kujenga barabara ile kwa miaka 5, lakini barabara ile itakapogawanywa kwa wakandarasi 5, Mheshimiwa Spika, watamaliza barabara ile kilomita 100 kwa muda wa mwaka mmoja, Mheshimiwa Spika. Sasa mambo kama haya ndiyo yanaelekeza ama ndiyo yanafanya ambayo watafanya serikali kupata pesa zile ambazo watakuwa wanaweza kufanya mambo mengine badala kutumia pesa kwa njia moja peke yake, kwa njia ambazo sivyo, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kuipongeza serikali kwa juhudi zake. Nikizungumzia eneo bunge la Lamu Mashariki na Lamu County kwa jumla, kwa mara ya kwanza Lamu County wameweza kupata barabara ya lami, lakini kwa masikitiko makubwa, mkandarasi anayetengeneza barabara kutoka Gariseni to Lamu ana mwaka mmoja hivi sasa ameshakuwa awarded. Mheshimiwa Rais amekuja amecommission, lakini hajatengeneza barabara hii. Na haya ndio matatizo, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tuko na barabara ambayo inatoka Lamu naenda Kiunga, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tunasikia mara kwa mara sijui magaidi, sijui nani. Barabara hii lao itatengenezwa weko lami, itasaidia pakubwa katika kusawazisha masuala kama haya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo mimi naunga mkono, lakini kama nilivyosema, tukiwa kama viongozi tunataka tuyajadili vizuri na tuhakikishe tumeyaweka sawa haya mambo kwa sababu ya siku zijazo. Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Asante. Honorable members have 6 requests and we have a balance of around 30 minutes. I wish we can also save some time for the other members to be able to make a contribution to the same. However, the next on my request list, the member for Njomfu, the Honorable Badi Twalib, and then the member for Daragwa, get ready to Kioni after Twalib.
Haya, asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kutakoroma usijali, kwa kunipatia nafasi hii ili na mimi kuchangia katika mswada huu. Kwanza ningependa Mheshimiwa Spika kuunga mkono mswada huu kwa sababu mswada huu una mambo mengi mazuri katika mambo ya miundo msingi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Alafu jambo la pili, ningependa kumshukuru mwenyekiti wa kamati hii ya barabara, Mheshimiwa Kosin, ambaye namjua vizuri kwa utendakazi wake. Ni mheshimiwa ambaye tulifanya na yeye kazi katika bunge ambalo lilipita, na katika bunge hili leo tufurahi kuwa tuko pamoja na yeye katika mambo haya ya barabara. Alafu vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kumtambua Mheshimiwa Maina Kamanda ambaye ndio alikuwa mwenyekiti wa barabara wakati wa nyuma, kwa sababu mimi mwenyewe binafsi katika wakati wa bunge la 17 za kura ambazo ni Kenya Urban Roads Authority na vile vile zile za kera ambazo zinaingia katika mashinani. Na hii itakuwa jambo zuri kwa sababu mara nyingi sisi tunasumbuliwa sana katika mashina kuona barabara inaweza kuwa ni ya eneo fulani ama ni kitengo fulani, lakini watu hawajui, wanakuuliza wewe na hali yuko ambaye anahusika na katika masala ya barabara ile. Kwa hivyo tuona katika mswada huu imeonyesha katika hizi barabara kuzikagua, hizi ni za mahali gani, hizi ni za mahali gani, hizi ni za mahali gani. Wangu nikawaambia liwe liwalo, lakini hatuwezi kutengeneza barabara tukavunja makao. Tukiondoa manyumba ya watu hapo, hizo barabara zitapitishwa na nani? Lakini tukiangalia mswada huu ambao umesukumwa na mwenyekiti Mheshimiwa Kosin, umeipa nguvu hali ya kuona kuwa mahali ni lazima kuwe na malipo ya mtu yoyote ambaye atakuwa ameathirika mahali popote. Alafu vile vile tukiangalia kipengee cha mswada huu cha 96 chazungumzia juu ya access to information, kujua habari ya pale, na ndio tunaona shida kubwa ambayo iko pale. Jambo kama hili na uunga mswada mkono huu naunga mkono mswada huu zaidi, kwa maana unaona kama hao watu ambao wakura wanataka kutengeneza barabara kwangu, lakini wanasema wananchi wakae wajadiliane kisha ndio wapelekee wao majibu, ambapo mimi nilisema si sawa hivyo. Usawa ni wao wanaotaka kutengeneza barabara waje wazungumze na wananchi mashinani kusema tunataka kufanya hivi kwa ajili ya jambo hili. Kwa hivyo mimi nikiuangalia mswada huu una mambo mengi mazuri, na mimi nataka kuzungumza kitu kimoja. Ni wakati tu wa nyuma ambapo Mheshimiwa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta alikuja shika adabu kule Mombasa, na alipokuja kule nilisimama nikazungumza nikasema hatuwezi kupanua poti yetu ya Mombasa bila kupanua external infrastructure. Nje mabarabara ni lazima apanuliwe. Kwa maana hiyo mimi nashukuru barabara hivi sasa zinapanuliwa kutoka mlango wa KPA kupitia kwenye constituency yangu. Lakini nikiangalia katika mswada huu unasema ya kwa kuwa kukiwa kuna kitu chochote ambacho ataka kurekebisha ni lazima utoe notisi ya miezi 6, 6 months notice. Nikizungumza namna hii nasema kuwa ni kweli wa China wako pale kwangu watengeza barabara mzuri, lakini hawakutoa notice za kukata pipe za maji katika sehemu ya Mikindani. Leo barabara yatengenezwa ni vizuri, lakini watu wanaishi hawana maji. Hiyo ndio shida ambao katika mswada huu umetoa kuwa ni lazima kuwe na notisi ya miezi 6. Notisi ya miezi 6 hii ilikuwa ni watu wa barabara wawapatie watu wa Mombasa Water and Sewerage Company wanahusiana na mambo ya maji, kwa kuambia barabara yetu inapita hapa, ondoeni pipe zenu muzieke mahali huku, ili tukipita hii barabara iwe haitaathiri kwamba barabara itengenezwe na maji watu wawe wataweza kupata, ili wafurahie pia huu mradi ambao umeletwa kwao, kwa umeletwa kwa njia ambayo ni ya manufaa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi siku ya leo nataka kusema kuwa yote 9, lakini kwa kutengenezewa ama kwa ushirikiano wa barabara ile ambayo inatoka katika Kilindini na ambayo itakuwa dual carriageway ya kupita katika sehemu yangu, ni jambo ambalo limenifurahisha kama mbunge, na kuona kuwa jambo lile barabara ile ikimalizika, msongamano mkubwa wa magari ambao ulikuwa ukishuhudiwa katika magari ya kutoka Nairobi na kuja vile vile mpaka Mombasa inakuwa ni shida. Mheshimiwa Spika, nakumbuka ni mwaka juzi tu wakati ulipotoka Mombasa, wewe mwenyewe ni rafiki yangu, ambapo ulitaka kwenda zako moja kwa moja mpaka Mtito, lakini ulikwama kwa barabara sehemu ya Miritini, Mheshimiwa Spika, mpaka ukanipigia mimi simu, ikabidi kwa niite OCPD aje akufungulie barabara ili uweze kupita utembee mpaka sehemu yako ya Mtito. Kwa hivyo jambo hili ni jambo ambalo hatutataki tena liwe litatokea katika nchi inayokuwa kama Kenya saa hizi. Tuone mabarabara yetu yamenawiri, yamekuwa sawa sawa, na kama ndugu zetu mwenzangu Mheshimiwa mbunge alivyozungumza hapa, barabara ya kuingia pale, hiyo ndio inaitwa gateway to Eastern Central Africa. Barabara ya kutoka port, hiyo ndio barabara ambayo inafanya biashara katika nchi zetu za Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi na sehemu nyingine. Kwa hivyo barabara hii ni lazima ziwe zitaweza kutengenezwa, na naambia mheshimiwa mwenyekiti wa barabara, tutashirikiana pamoja na kamati yako katika sehemu zetu tofauti ili tuweze kuletea matatizo yetu, tuone kwa tumeweza kuwatatua kwa ajili ya wananchi wetu ambao wameweza kutuchagua. Kwa hayo machache, Mheshimiwa Spika, na kushukuru kwa kunipa fursa hii ili kuweza kuzungumza na kuchangia katika mswada huu na mchango huu wa barabara katika siku hii ya leo. Asante na Mwenyezi Mungu akubariki.
Asante. The honorable member represent the people of Daragwa, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to support this bill. And before Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to also thank the Speaker, Honorable Justin Mutuli, for the ruling that he made a little bit earlier on in the day, where he made it clear that institutions should not be used to undermine other institutions. Different arms of government should allow other arms to function. That does not mean that they have a free day, but it is important that we do not use Parliament to undermine other institutions. Madam Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to thank the chairman of the Roads Committee, Mheshimiwa Posing, and also the former chairman, a whole 5 years to get the bill moving, and it has taken this chair just a couple of weeks to consult and have the bill on the floor. That is surely commendable, and we hope that when this moves to the Senate, they will not take the opportunity of delaying it, but allow it to pass so that we can have the clarity that is there in this bill, because this bill introduces clarity in the management of our roads, and it clearly allows us to know which road belongs where and who is responsible for what. It also brings clarity to the many agencies that have been created, and I can see it has also repealed acts. It's unfortunate that we had an act that was passed, and I don't think we even did it, but an act that is dated 1920, helping us to man our roads. It's good to know that it has now been repealed. We have nothing that can be called national trunk road within the secondary or the primary category. And if that be the case, then we've been left at the mercy of the governor and the county government and the county assembly. And I don't think it is the most of a comfortable things. I've been with them for the last 6 months, and all that I can see happening is a necessary competition, and that competition is not going to help us in any way. So I think for members of parliament to be relevant, we need to be careful so that we don't take all the roads away to the county government. But also crucially, if then we want our roads tarmacked within our constituencies, and when the only agency that is going to tarmac these roads, from what I've seen, is the national government. I don't see the county governors tarmacking any roads in our area. They will continue maraming and maram on top of maram, and it continues, and I don't know what you expect more. So I am fearful, because if this classification is not checked again, then we will never get any road tarmacked in Daragwa, unless at a special program, because all the roads have been taken over, and they are all called feeder roads from this classification. And it is something that we as members must pay attention to, because we could easily find ourselves registrating ourselves out of the road sector, and that would not be a very kind thing. But having said that, Madam Speaker, the bill helps us in many ways, including the clarity that I've talked about. It has established the Standards Roads Board, I think. That's what they are calling it, yes, the Public Roads Standards Board. And I hope one of the things the board will do quickly is to pay attention to the kind of bumps that we have in this country. Some of the bumps that have been elected across the country, some cars will have to climb, and you have to take some time to climb over a bump. And without, and I'm sure, I don't need to belabor that point, we have many vehicles that have been damaged in this country because of the kind of bumps that have done. You go to one region, there are high bumps, other regions, there are road bumps, others, there are rubble strips. We need some form of, we need some expectations that one would be having that is common across the board, so that we don't, you are not surprised by the kind of bump when you are already in the ditch having gone over a bump. But, Madam Speaker, let me also say that it is important to pay attention to the penalties. And I hope the issue of the border. And I don't know how they ride, but mainly where they do it and disobey all the roads. We need to pay attention to it because it is a major issue that requires our attention. And I'm sure the Roads Committee have an opportunity to do that now, and I think they should do it well. Madam Speaker, I know I have been to the people in charge of Kera, and I am happy that likely to have some work going on in our constituency. But as I say that, and some tarmacking of roads is likely to happen during this term, and we thank the government and the roads team, and also thank our God, because we've been remembered. But we may not have somebody to talk about Thika Highway, where the jam, a lot of the jam that we experience along that Thika Highway, most of the time is caused by the pedestrian crossing. And they have to, because they've not been provided for with the footbridge or the pedestrian footbridges. And I think it is important that that also be paid attention to. I know there is an issue of money, but it is important that that be paid attention to. Section 22 of the Act, among other sections, talks about the qualifications of those who are supposed to serve in various boards. And I see that there is a requirement of fulfillment of Chapter 6. And Madam Speaker, I know this is something that we find in many pieces of registration that pass through this House, and perhaps the Senate also. But I think it is important that we refocus ourselves to the requirement of Chapter 6. Because if we were able to fulfill the requirements of Chapter 6, many of the things that we are complaining about, including the corruption, delayed completion of roads, the standard of construction, will have been dealt with. So I am happy to see that we have brought in Chapter 6, the requirement of it, in the qualification of board members, but it is important to ensure that they are led and adhered to. Finally, Madam Speaker, I thank the committee and this House, because in doing this bill, what we have done is to align it to the requirement of the Constitution, and it is important that we always focus on what the Constitution intended for every article that we did. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well said. Very well. The Honorable Member from Ganze. And then...
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to demonstrate my support to this bill.
Yes, Honorable Member, we are just following the list. I can't even see.
Madam Speaker,
Honorable Ganze is member for Kadui, and then Kazipul.
Madam Speaker, though much has been said, but there are some pertinent issues which I think I need to share, particularly from my constituency, whereby I've looked at the bill and I've discovered that there's some information, there's some illustrations which will address the current situation, whereby in my constituents, for instance, the Kera roads, I have come to discover that even disbursement of funds are normally given equally, and it has, because I have a good number of roads which are in Kera, now those roads have been left to a neighboring constituency to be funding those roads, making it very difficult for me even to oversight them. But in this bill, it is very clear in how these roads are going to be managed. And I believe when it comes to disbursement, it will not be done equally, but there should be a clear way on how best these monies can be channeled to the constituency, especially to the roads committees, so that it can be easier even for the Member of Parliament to oversight these roads. Otherwise, if the situation will remain the way it is, then it becomes a very big challenge. So I believe even after passage of this bill, Chairman, there will be a close follow-up so that some people will not put into the same practice, because there's a tendency in this country whereby we have very good laws, but when it comes to implementation, they come up with some layways to keep on practicing the same issues, whereby some constituencies do not get the right services. I believe, Chair, in this bill,
It's actually time for the mover to reply. So I don't know whether, because I wanted to give the Honorable Wamunyinyi, I would request the...
Yeah, my leader can reply, and if he has some time, then I can help him. Thank you.
Yes, the mover of the bill is the leader of majority.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, the mover is the owner of the bill, and in this instance, I'm the owner. So the chair can hold his horses. Madam Speaker, because my colleagues have been here, Honorable Munyinyi, Honorable Ogondo, Honorable Ngugi, and Honorable Ayub Savula, in that order.
Yes,
I want to give them
those are the 4
2
requests.
minutes.
Thank you. Honorable leader, thank you for being philanthropic enough. We have 4 requests, and all the 4 members, you're going to be a beneficiary of the 2 minutes so that we can contribute towards the same. Honorable Wafula Munyinyi, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Leader of Majority, for donating your time. First, I want to say I support this bill, which is very important to us, as it seeks to give effect to the Constitution, Madam Speaker, by proposing to rationalize and to put a good framework for the general management of roads in our country. It wants to do this through legislation of the various, amendment of the various legislative pieces, and also to put in place the agencies and boards that would manage road networks and activities related to roads. There are 2 things I want to say, Madam Speaker, because of the time which I've been given is just 2 minutes. One, I think it is necessary to make sure there is orderly harmonization and reclassification of roads in our country to make sure that there is no confusion and duplication. Number 2, the roles of the governments, both the county and national governments, must also be spelled out very clearly. Madam Speaker, roads must be properly maintained and made safe for all the users, both with people with disability and normal people. And road signs, as well as, apart from just maintaining, there have to be road signs and marking to show areas, that are black spots, and controls to ensure that there is adequate safety in our roads. One thing I wanted to say, Madam Speaker, is equitable distribution of resources for road networks. It is important that all parts of the country benefit from that.
Thank you.
Like we're insisting for CDF, a flat rate was given out. When we have a constituency like mine with 9 wards, another one with 3 wards, we're getting same amount. I have more than 200 schools. Another one with 40 schools, we get the same amount.
Thank you, Honorable Munyinyi. Your 2 minutes are over. I'm sure you have much to say. Honorable Kaspul.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to really support the bill. In any country to be developed, roads is key. It is a pillar for any economical development. Through roads, we can take our produce to the market, we can reach hospitals, so it is key. The only thing which has to be done, Madam Chairman, is the application of equity in roadwork distribution. And I can really confirm without a fear or contradiction, into quote, Serikali ya Mukati, Nusu Mukati, in quotes, did a lot of work in terms of roads, and most of the designs which are currently being implemented, engineered from the same. Kwa hivyo, ongera kwako in quote. The other thing is on contractors. It is good the Chinese contractors are doing a very good job. and we appreciate. But in Kasipul, there's one which is doing a project under ADB. We need the chairman to visit the area to ascertain the type of work which is doing, because even when it comes to employment of the locals, only 10% are locals on labor which can be outsourced within the area. So would wish the chair to look into that so that at least roads can be beneficial to us. On equity, there's a problem because, for example, in
Thank you. Your 2 minutes are over, please. Honorable members, plan for your 2 minutes. Honorable Katanga, Honorable Gugi, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you very much also our leader for giving me 2 minutes. I don't want to talk much, but there's an issue I want to address. Most of the members here who have talked, they seem to have lost confidence in our local contractors. But I want to tell them that if you support our local contractors, they can also perform. They really suffer because when they bid for jobs, they have to spend a lot of money, which is very expensive. There's performance bond to pay, 10%, and most institutions, most road agencies, they want you to pay using cash. Or even when you are using an asset, it has to be devalued, which is very expensive. It has become very hard for local contractors to secure advance payments. When it comes to the Chinese, I think most members don't know that they are heavily supported by their government, very much. As our local people are never given any support. And I think, Chairman, you have done a good job, but as we come to the conclusion of this bill, you must find a way of how we can support our local people. It is very bad that 40 years after independence, we are talking about foreign people. Our local people have been able to perform in various other sectors. We have seen them in, they are in small SMEs.
The more you talk, the more you finish your 2 minutes. Your 2 minutes are over. The Honorable Agate Safula. No, they're not over. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, the Leader of Majority, for the opportunity. First and foremost, I congratulate the committee. You have done a wonderful job for collapsing several statutes into one roads bill, creating the standards of roads in this country. This will help local and international contractors to do standard jobs in this country, establish standard bridges and even road shoulders, and ensure that we monitor how the roads are done before payments are done. Because previously, we've been using an inspection unit at the Ministry of Public Works, which was not effective. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the bill also gives clear clarity between the work done by the county governments and the national government, especially county governments that manages areas that are in urban centers. Governors have been taking advantage of roads done by the Urban Roads Authority and claim that they are the ones responsible for the good works. This bill has really clarified the difference between a road done by an Urban Roads Authority and the county government. Third, Madam Speaker, the bill also gives a clear indication on which road should be done by the National Highway Authority and Secondary Roads Authority. Secondary Roads Authority is a new introduction in this bill,